creator of Scream has done it again.
I think he's dead.
It was an accident.
And the critics are hooked. I Know What You Did Last Summer is an edge-of-your-seat thriller.
Oh my God, this isn't happening.
It's scarier than Scream. And will make you jump out of your seat.
Help him, he's gonna kill us!
Hang on for a wild terror ride.
What are you waiting for?
I Know What You Did Last Summer. Don't see it alone. Rated R.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Do You Even Movie? My name is Henrique Couto, and this is, well, just Dave.
Just Dave. Fisherman Dave?
Hush. Hush. Okay?
Something.
Yeah, no one will ever know those other lyrics. As has become, maybe a little bit overdone.
Yes.
We do have a affinity for the 90s.
Yes, we do.
Here at Do You Even Movie.
That we do.
And today is no different.
It is not.
As we look at the beginning of the entire Scream machine.
Yeah.
Because, of course, Scream starts it, but what really makes a film change the whole industry is not the films in the series. It's how it affects the films outside of itself.
Exactly.
So we've got not only a Dawson's Creek teen slasher that's self-aware.
Yes.
But the same writer.
Same writer, yes.
Kevin Williamson. The same writer as Scream.
Yes, it is.
Of course, nobody likes to talk about the fact that Kevin Williamson's original script was like not very much at all like what Wes Craven ended up filming for Scream.
This is also true.
But it was still
touches of it were there, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, and I mean, it's not like he's known for being a bad writer. He wrote a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
And the interesting choices that were made, and I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
And more importantly, its sequel, I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer.
God damn it. You are so hung up on I Always Know What You Did Last Summer, and I just want to say here on the podcast that I am willing to watch it again, but I remember it not, and I stress not, being any semblance of a good film.
You don't remember anything.
That's not true.
Oh, yeah? What'd you have for lunch?
I didn't eat lunch.
Exactly.
You know I didn't eat lunch, damn it.
Nailed it. Got him, kids.
Got me indeed.
No, but Dave, I would have never talked about I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer ever if you had just, when I said the name, went, oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
Then I would have been like, I would have ignored it. But you were like,
But this is a great example of our friendship to the viewers and listeners of this show.
Whoa.
I don't know about all Too late. It's been said. But no, it is one of those situations where my reaction dictates how you react to us in a property, whether it's a movie, whether it's a TV show, of watching it right then and there if you can find it. Or you're going to just drop it on me later and be like, well, that's what we're doing tonight.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've showed up for cigar nights and you've been like, well, you know that movie you didn't want to watch? Guess what?
It happens a lot.
It does.
It's because you don't like as many good movies
But
as me.
I will also give you credit that you have turned me around on some things.
Do you know one off the top of your head?
Virus Haunted Hills.
Yeah, you hated that.
I think I was just in a really bad spot when I watched it for the first time.
Well, the weird thing about that was it wasn't one of those Elvira's Haunted Hills and you got all upset and mad, and I went, well, I like it.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I haven't seen Elvira's Haunted Hills. And you were like, oh, dude, not good, blah, blah, blah.
I think we've established on the show already, too, that sometimes I have a very bitchy opinion of films that I did not take into account where my mind was at when I watched them or how I was feeling when I watched them, so I don't revisit them for a long time, and then you are the one that convinces me to go back.
You could reel that back to just bitchy opinion.
Yes, there
sometimes
is that too.
I just have a bitchy opinion.
No, Virus Haunted Hills is one, and there's a big one that I'm trying to think of.
What happened was it was a Friday night, you weren't there.
Yeah.
And I had gotten the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Because I was excited. I think it was on sale.
Yep.
we put it on, and I'm like, and I literally was like, I've heard it's not that good. But it was after I read her biography.
Yeah, that's right.
I was like, I heard it's not that good, but she seems to be really proud of it, so let's watch it. And it's nonstop kitsch.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's so funny all the way through. It's silly, it's goofy, it's ridiculous. And as soon as it was over, I was like, what the fuck were you talking about, Dave?
You forget, I wasn't there for that, like you said already.
I know.
And then Joe Bob showed it, and so I had to watch it with you guys.
Yeah.
And then that's when you were like, hey, what do you think now?
I remember because I was like, guys, I know on a movie night we'd usually have pizza, but tonight we're serving crow for Dave to eat. Oh!
Hickory dickory dock.
Hickory dickory dock.
But yeah, no, I mean that is a history of our friendship. Is that I had there, but I've also done it to you a couple times that I can't think of a single fucking time
because it's never happened.
It has happened. There's been a couple times it's happened.
Well, for the record, I mean I am just the relentless, frustrating Pollyanna of the friendship, of all my friendships, really. So to find a movie I truly dislike is not that easy.
No, it's not.
Although you still have not shown me one of your favorite films I hate, and I'm not going to say the name of it because I don't want to inspire you.
Oh, shit. Well, no.
Nope.
And well, we watched The Crow together in theaters this year, but you didn't hate The Crow.
I never hated The Crow, no. In fact, seeing The Crow in the theater made me realize that I had like a deep connection to The Crow.
Oh my God, what? I feel like I know what it is, and now I can't think. Give me just a subtle hint.
Not a chance in hell.
All right, this is now the goal of the episode is to figure out what this is.
I mean, you're on your own, because I will not tell you.
When you say favorite, when I talk about a lot?
I'm not helping you at all. Content be damned. I will not give you a fucking hint.
God damn it.
I will not tell you a decade. I will not tell you a genre.
Have I brought it over here before?
I won't give you a fucking hint. You get nothing. Good day, sir. I am not
helping Willy Wonka.
You.
I know you love Willy Wonka like I do.
I do. No. I seriously won't give you any because the idea of revisiting it, no thanks.
Hey, Birdman, Rob, and Bama.
You're calling out our friends who listen.
Let me just slip this message in. Badger this motherfucker like you've badgered me about the Yellow Belt, about this movie, so we can talk about it on the show.
Good luck. Good luck.
I am so curious now. Shit.
I am a tumultuous creature.
Yes, you are.
I will not give in.
Man, it's something that you despise. That
I do.
Love.
So, and that's the only hint you'll ever get. So,
okay, we're going to kick this around.
Any hint, and I think you would figure it out.
Probably.
I don't want you to.
Probably, yeah.
So, but no. That's the thing about watching movies. Sometimes you realize that you weren't really watching them the first go around.
Yeah.
Or in David's case, watching with your ass and not your eyes.
Yes. This is true.
That's my favorite. I hope you hate that as much as I love that, because I think that's my favorite thing to say to you.
It's gotten to be one of my favorite phrases that I also use now, but also it really 100% is accurate, because there are, because I'm gonna soapbox here for a second.
Oh God, Dave's doing it for once.
I really want people to listen.
Your camera's there.
I know, but I really want people to listen when I say this. If you're a jaded moviegoer, it's okay to not know that until you think about it. And the best example I can give is that going to a movie theater allows me to not have my phone out at all. It allows me to not be in contact with anybody that's going to distract me from the film, to a point where I've gotten putting my phone away when I watch a movie. Like, I will either put it in the other room, I'll put it on the charger.
Did I tell you I read a study that showed that having your cell phone out of the room with you is like 25% lower anxiety rate?
No shit, I didn't know that.
People are literally addicted to their phones, and I don't even think that's questionable.
No, I mean, it's not.
But they said that it's like a 25 to 40% decrease in anxiety if it's not in the room with you.
And I can absolutely believe that.
And that's if it never rings.
I can absolutely believe
that. So anyway, but I was not trying to derail you, I was just going with you.
But no, so my advice to you is, if you have a favorite movie, and I mean, it could be anything in regards of the word favorite. It could be one that you've seen a lot of times. It could be one that you go to for a comfort film. But if you have a favorite movie, do an experiment of putting that movie on, putting your phone either outside of the room, turning it off or whatever, and literally just looking at the screen for the entire time as much as you can. because you and I agree with this because this happened several years ago when we both took our mothers to see Steel Magnolias.
Oh, God, yeah.
And we caught so much that we hadn't seen before, even though we've seen that movie countless times.
Well, and there's something else to be said for it being on the big screen in front of you. Even as, I mean, not that my screen's not very big, but even my screen, which is 120 inches, the average home television's around 50 to 65 to 70.
Yeah.
So seeing the screen that big, like, I hate watching movies on my big screen by myself unless I'm really dedicated.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm wasting the experience.
I get that.
If I just put whatever on and then I end up flipping through my phone during it, I always feel dirty. So, but I am also the kind of person who will be like, all right, it's Saturday night. I'm all alone. No friends are around, so I'm going to make me a box of popcorn, and I'm going to put on, let's see, which one of the Maria Ford, Roger Corman movies with the same screenplay do I want? Do I want Saturday Night Special? Well, that's the best one of them all. So
I do like Saturday Night Special.
Saturday Night Special. And I will sit and watch a VHS rip of Saturday Night Special on my giant screen and be like, monocle, very good.
But no, like the reason I bring this up especially is like I've seen a lot of people shit talking Twisters. We saw Twisters recently.
Yeah.
And I've seen people shit talking it that it doesn't have the same appeal as the first one. I mean, that's a whole nother review we could get into, maybe even later on the show. I don't know. But Twister is a movie that played cable incessantly. We talked about that on the podcast. I've seen that movie countless times. And it's amazing that you and I saw it together, and I thought that it captured the feeling of the original to a good point, but still had enough to make its own original space in the timeline, I guess, of the films. Because it's not a direct sequel. There's nods to the original in it, but nothing character-wise or whatnot.
Well, it clearly takes place in the same universe because Dorothy's technology
in it.
Exists.
Yeah, and then there's brief mentions here and there. But anyway, it is a movie that a lot of people hold near and dear. And I think if people go into Twisters just wanting to have fun with that original concept of what they loved about the original, I think for the most part they'll like it. And that's also because they're having their direct attention on the screen the entire time. They're not distracted by anything. I think when you have the option to have a distraction, whether it's your phone, whether it's a laptop or anything like that,
whether it's a significant other, divorce them.
Significant other, yes.
Divorce them.
I think it makes it easy to detract your enjoyment of a film to where you're not actually watching the film, you're just kind of having it on as ambience. And I feel like a lot of my friends actually do that.
Well, and cable television was kind of the birth of just having stuff on as ambience as well. Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, Dave.
Okay.
Because I just so happen to have the director of Twisters right here. No, it's funny you say that, Dave, because yesterday I worked a 14-and-a-half-hour day.
Yeah.
I won't bore with the details, but I was doing a tedious job that absolutely had to be done. And because of the situation, it's a noisy job. I was running computers and I was running computer fans and I was running printers all at once in one room.
Yeah.
So I had my AirPods in.
Yeah.
Because not even for music and stuff, just because they make the noise less.
They lessen it, yeah.
Yeah, they make my head stop hurting. And as I was sitting there doing this, I realized I have a 2-monitor setup on my computer. I was like, I'm going to put a movie on the second computer because it'll feed through my headphones.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to kind of have it on because I do every so often have to go and do something.
Yeah.
And I realized by the third film I'd watched doing that I was basically a security guard. Okay, I'm glad you get where I'm going out with that. I was like, oh, I'm just like watching the TV until something makes a noise, and then I look away and I go deal with it, and then I come back and sit back down. And that made me realize something because I was watching mostly thrillers and action movies.
Yeah.
And boy, did they keep me amused while I was working. But that's something I don't do very often because most of the time my jobs are too focused.
Yeah, you're active, depending if you're actively editing or recording, it's like you can't have that.
Well, yeah, if you're doing a podcast, you can't listen to or watch anything at the same time. If you're editing it, you have to listen actively to it.
Yep.
If you're editing video, you have to listen and watch. Sometimes there's editing where you barely need to listen.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like, maybe I'd put on a podcast or something. You're not going to watch a movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very rare that I have that ability to just kind of whatever, and I just have the movie on the TV. And that was what I felt like by the time the last movie ended at like 12:30 at night. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm working a night watchman's job. I'm just like, look at the TV and I hear a noise and go, is that broken? That's fine.
That's fine.
And then I'm like, ooh, I'm watching, and I was watching like Roger Corman movies from the 90s that nobody knows.
Yep.
I found one that like nobody knows.
You've told me about it.
Had 4 reviews on IMDb.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta check my letterbox afterwards.
Yeah, Quake. Nobody. If you are watching this show and you went, oh, Quake, yeah, with Steve Railsback, then you should email in at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com and let us know, because that's weird.
Yeah, that absolutely is.
But anyway, it was really good. But no, so I was watching that. I watched like Blood Fist 3. I watched a documentary. I watched a bunch of stuff. And my point is just that it was funny watching something so passively.
Yeah.
Actually, it was really fun.
Yeah.
But in general, there's something to be said for giving a film your undivided attention, or as undivided as you can.
Yeah.
And that's a struggle for a lot of people.
Well, and especially with COVID happening in 2020 being the year that we started seeing all these major films get released to streaming services. So people in large amounts, I don't think have returned to the theater. I mean, obviously.
Well, the theaters were declining anyway to an extent.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be the nature of the beast, because watching movies is becoming more and more and more convenient.
Yeah.
And it's not like we can bitch. We make like an 1.5 to 2 hour show a week that you can watch for free.
This is true.
Via the internet. Like,
yeah.
That's the future. That's where we are now.
Yeah.
And I do miss that nostalgia, of the video store and stuff like that, but I totally understand why it lost the fight.
Yeah.
It's just the convenience of you don't even leave your couch versus you have to leave your home. You have to go somewhere.
Put
you have
on
to walk
pants,
in.
Be respectful.
Well, if the sheriff's around, yeah, pants on. But the other thing I want to mention is the other problem. It's not just about not paying attention. It's also about people so desperately want to have something to say about the films that they just watched. And for the most part, most people feel like if you don't have something negative to say, if you don't have a harsh criticism, then you've got nothing interesting to say.
And I disagree wholeheartedly.
I disagree too. And if we're wrong, you must be really bored listening to the show because we're so positive most of the time.
Yeah.
But that's always been my attitude.
Yeah.
In fact, the movies, and you've known this our entire friendship, the movies I'm most critical of are the ones that we walk out of that I liked.
Yeah.
I'll walk out of and be like, man, that was great. Wouldn't the third act have been better if this had happened?
Shit, I mean, we saw Longlegs 2 weeks ago now, and we've still been talking about it every time we see each other, basically, like just been bringing some stuff up.
I really enjoyed it, even though I thought it wasn't perfect.
No,
I really enjoyed it.
The reviews hype it up a bit, but it does definitely have a place in horror, but I don't think it's the next groundbreaking one that everybody's making it out to be.
Sweetheart, it's already groundbreaking.
Oh, box office wise, it is.
Yeah, it's already a groundbreaking horror.
Oh yeah, no, I know that. I'm saying
Sweet
more
Summer
so,
Child.
I'm more so saying content wise, like it's the scariest movie of the year.
I like, it's hard because like the things I found hokey about it, if I say out loud, I spoil some for people. And I think the best way to go into Longlegs is knowing nothing. I think the best way to go into most movies is knowing absolutely nothing.
The only thing I'm going to say, no spoilers at all, is that a certain actor in it could definitely do a Tiny Tim biopic that I would be all in on. That's it.
Okay.
I would love to see him do that too.
I mean, he was kind of a cross between Tiny Tim and Michael Jackson.
Yeah. I wrote on Letterboxd Tiny Tim impersonation from hell.
So a Tiny Tim impersonation.
Yeah, basically.
I love Tiny Tim, but he got a little scary there for a while.
Especially towards the end of his Howard Stern appearances.
Well, his face looked like a mortician did his makeup.
Mm-hmm.
He just was terrifying.
Yeah, he was.
Anyway.
And then he made himself a clown in Blood Harvest.
And I really love Tiny Tim. I think he's a fascinating person with fascinating music.
Eternal Troubadour, his bio, that the guy that was on
Justin
Joe
Martell.
Bob, Justin Martell wrote.
He wasn't just on Joe Bob. He is the producer, creator of The Last Drive-In.
Yeah, but his book is phenomenal.
I was at the convention when the book came out, and I had a table next to him. That's how weird it was when I found out Justin Martell. I was like, I know that name. This guy I sat next to for a weekend in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So, anyway.
Yes, we've gotten off topic.
All that digression to say, when you can, sit down, put your phone in the other room, and stop watching a film already trying to articulate what you want to say about it.
Yeah.
That is definitely the worst way to go about watching a movie. And I mean, I don't know. I can only speak as the anxiety-riddled goblin that I am.
I get that. My point, my apologies. My point in wrapping this up is that I think it's become, and you nailed it, I think it's become way too easy to wax negatively about a film. People will make quips on their letterbox, like that's their review, is just like one smarmy line of it, and it's just like, well, that didn't give me anything. Like, what'd you actually think about the movie, sort of thing. So I feel like there's absolutely a place for that stuff too, and I get that, but I feel like a large amount of viewers these days are not enjoying films.
Well, it's just the desperate need to be based.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm over here being cringe, and I'm proud of it. So let's talk about how much you like a stupid fucking movie from the 90s.
Hell yeah, we are talking about I Know What You Did Last Summer from 1997, 1 hour and 41 minutes, rated R for strong horror violence and language.
I did feel like the horror violence was strong.
It absolutely is. No, this is one that we actually talked about this off mic. This is where I get into a debate of what is a horror versus a thriller.
Yeah, which I mean, a lot of people would say the only difference in a horror and a thriller is an Academy Award.
This is actually very fucking true. Wow.
Because if you have a horror film,
yeah,
and it suddenly becomes super successful, if it becomes Silence of the Lambs, then all of a sudden it's a thriller,
yeah,
and it has value.
Yeah.
But if it's just playing on cable and making teenagers scared, then it's a horror movie. It's a piece of garbage. It's just here to come and to go.
But this is one of those movies to me that embodies everything that you could want from a 90s slasher after Scream setting out that whole track, basically.
Well, Scream reinvented the slasher movie. The slasher movie was incredibly stale by 89 and 90.
Yeah.
And Scream took it and put it on top of its head and made people want to watch slasher movies. But now, instead of wanting to see a group of kids go to fix up a summer camp or whatever, it became all about suburban kids, which makes sense because that's who's going to see the movies.
Yeah.
Whether they're suburban kids or the parents of suburban kids. They wanted it to be about suburban kids. They all had to look great. That's why the joke is they cast off of the WB.
Yeah.
Because it was literally all these teeny bopper people. I mean, Scream had it. I Know What You Did Last Summer had it.
Faculty had it.
The Faculty, yeah. They had these, great looking, young, generally white kids, which is interesting because then when the WB became like the bastion of people of color television.
Yeah.
It was originally the place where you watched white kids be mad at each other and make out.
This is true.
Which I always thought was like, what an evolution. I gotta love that evolution.
You absolutely do.
So, but that was the big change, is it went from like kind of a down and dirtiness to being like, no, we want good looking young people, at most college age, good looking young people. And of course now as we're heading into the 2000s, it just meant like dudes wearing like gauntlet banded things on their arms and girls showing their midriff because that was the era of the midriff.
That was the midriff era, yes.
So, and that's where you get great films like we've talked about Urban Legend. Urban Legend was cast just like that as well.
Yeah.
It just became the thing, and really, it didn't stop being massivbut popular until Saw.
Yeah.
So that's a good almost 10 years.
That's about a decade, yeah.
Yeah, about a decade. And that's the thing. But people don't talk about enough.
Tell me.
They don't talk enough about, there was this little pocket from about 99 or 2000, maybe 2001, until about 2007 or 8, where there were a bunch of monster movies again.
That is, you're absolutely right.
And not just like Lake Placid, not just those, but like Tobe Hooper's Crocodile 2, Death Roll,
Octopus 2.
Well, but we're talking before the Sci-Fi Channel thing happened.
Oh, yeah.
Like those movies ended up on the Sci-Fi Channel because they fit.
Yeah.
But these were direct-to-video movies, almost all of them made by New Image. Which
he's not wrong.
Which New Image was founded by two guys who worked at Canon Films. So they were running with it. Avi Lerner was the main founder of New Image. And they made these monster movies, and they were hugely popular. But you know what they all did?
What's that?
Had the attractive teenagers.
This is very true.
They all had the Dawson Creek casting.
Yeah.
So now that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm saying it out loud to you, I'm going, wait. I guess it was in a way, it was part of the same breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Because, Breath of Fresh Air, which made everything the same.
Yes. Breathe life into everything to be the exact same.
Everything that's new is, everything that's old is new again, and everything that's new gets crusty.
This is true.
So that you could quote me on that, put that on my tombstone. But yeah, I just want to mention that because I was right at that time in 2000, 2001, 2002, I was the kid with the DVD player right when they became affordable, who was buying up these new Image movies that were all over the shelves of Blockbuster.
Yeah.
And then a year later, they'd air on Sci-Fi. And it was before Sci-Fi started making them all themselves and started making them really wacky. And because they realized people were watching them for bad movie nights.
Bad movie, yeah.
It blows my mind to look at those. So I just want to mention that, like, it wasn't, the cycle wasn't only slashers, but it was a lot of slasher movies.
And I mean, I think what I like most about I Know What You Did Last Summer is that it doesn't follow the Scream formula exactly in regards of its pacing, because, you know, infamously we open on Scream with the death of Drew Barrymore's character.
Yeah.
Then we move into, you know, some menacing, but then the principal dies, who's Henry Winkler's character.
Well, and remember, though, the death of Drew Barrymore. Call back to Hitchcock.
Call back to Hitchcock.
Everything that's old is new again.
Yeah. And that's what I love about I Know What You Did Last Summer is its pacing is so good when it comes to the menacing that when we get to the kills, it's just like, oh yeah, I guess it is a horror film.
Well, and if you read the book, the Lois Duncan book.
Yeah, which we'll talk about her too.
Those books are all about that era of books, let alone her books.
Yeah.
They were all about suspense, whodunit, all of that stuff, because they were meant for even younger audiences than these movies were.
Yeah. Surrounding, I mean, it is one of those, both an author that was really good at doing the teen horror that didn't have a lot of deaths in it, just more so mystery thrillers.
Well, because they were for young adults.
Yeah. And then aiming this right towards the end. I mean, yeah, it just all works out. So our director on the film is Jim Gillespie. He gets his start in 1992 with Encounters, Cardiac Arrest in 1994, Shooting Gallery 95, Ghostbusters of Each Finley in 95.
What?
He does the Queen Mother Love video in 96, Made in Heaven video for Queen in 97. Then in 97, he also does I Know What You Did Last Summer. 2002, he does the lesser loved Stallone thriller ICU.
I kind of like ICU.
I love the opening with that fucking murder with that nail gun. That is vicious.
And it's IEYE-CU because it's very clever.
I think it's called Detox is the other title for it.
That's not a bad title for it, too.
Big Detox is the other title.
But I've always had a soft spot for ICU.
ICU's fun.
The last time I watched ICU, I was literally in bed, bored, probably 5 years ago, and my Roku advertised me to watch it with ads on some random streaming service. And I did. And when it was over, I was like, that was pretty solid.
I mean, it's basically a whiteout with Kate Beckinsale in the early 2010s ripped it off, because that's basically what it is.
No, that's a really good point.
So then he does The Legacy 2002, Venom in 2005.
Oh.
And then Billionaire Ransom in 2016. That is the last on his directing resume. Moving down to our writer, as Enrique mentioned, we have Lois Duncan. She was a writer and journalist who started in 1958 with Love Song for Joyce. She then writes Game of Danger 62, Point of Violence.
Books or movies?
These are books. I got her movies separate.
Okay. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I was.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, her novel Game of Danger 62, Point of Violence, Ransom, Hotel for Dogs in 71. Then I Know What You Did Last Summer in 1973.
Wow, that was that old.
That old.
When the Bow Breaks. Realize that.
Yeah, When the Bow Breaks in 73. Killing Mr. Griffin in 78, Daughters of Eve in 79. 1992, she writes a nonfiction piece called Who Killed My Daughter, because tragically in the early 90s, her daughter was found murdered. They still never were able to solve it. She was shot.
Yeah, that was a massive thing, because she was considered one of the masters of the Who Killed So-and-So books.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden to be a victim of that kind of crime is very terrifying.
Notoriously wrote one more of those books after that event and then never wrote anything like that again.
I don't blame her.
So then going to her movie resume, she has Summer of Fear in 1978, the Linda Blair, Wes Craven film. Killing Mr. Griffin in 1997. I Know What You Did Last Summer in 97. I've Been Waiting for You in 1998. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, because she gets credit for characters. Don't Look Behind You in 99. Held for Ransom in 2000. I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer in 2006.
Hold on.
I knew it.
It's important.
Hotel for Dogs in 2009, and then Down a Dark Hall in 2018 is her last credit. She is a writer that I cannot recommend enough for her young adult novels. Some of those are fantastic. One of my favorites is, what is that called? I think it's called Thrilled to Kill, I think is the title of it. That's one I read in high school. That was really good. Moving on down to our other writer, we have Kevin Williamson. Of course, he gets his fame in 1996 with Scream. I Know What You Did Last Summer in 97 as the writer. Scream 2 is the writer in 97 as well. The Faculty in 98. Teach Him Miss Tingle in 99. He's the director on Teach Him Miss Tingle as well. He writes for Scream 3 in 2000. Dawson's Creek in 2000. Cursed in 2005, which was a cursed film. Scream 4, he has characters in 2011. Stalker in 2014. The Following TV series in 2013. The Vampire Diaries in 2009. Scream TV series in 2015. And the Scream 6 in 2023.
Well, of course, yeah.
And then moving down to our cinematographer, we have Denise Cresson. Gets the start in 1989 with Melancholia, Silent Scream in 1990, A Murder Equality in 91, Blue Ice in 1992, The Real McCoy in 93. Have you ever seen The Real McCoy? Val Kilmer and I want to say, oh my God, I can picture her face. Vicky Vale from Batman, Kim Basinger.
I have not seen that one.
Kim Basinger is a professional thief, and she has retired, and these guys kidnap her son because they want her to do one more heist for her.
Huh.
It's really good.
That sounds pretty good. But you mentioned Blue Ice, by the way, which that's the one with Jamie Lee Curtis, right?
I think so, yeah.
Or is that Blue Steel?
No, that's Blue Steel. Blue
Steel
is,
I don't know
Blue Ice, I think, is don't quote me, and it may not be the same movie, but Vinegar Syndrome put out a Blue Ice that might be the same movie, which is like a sexy thriller, I want to say.
You heard Dave. Quote him.
Do not quote me. Nostradamus in 1994. He shoots Killer Tongue in 1996, then does I Know What You Did Last Summer in 97.
Killer Tongue, another one of those movies in all those boxes. We just watched Rumpelstiltskin.
Yes, we
Killer
did.
Tongue was always packed
Yes,
with
we
Rumpelstiltskin. Have you ever seen it?
I've not.
Me neither.
I'd be in.
I'd be down.
Incognito in 97. Also shoots The Clandestine Marriage in 98. The Hole in 2001. Have you ever seen The Hole with Thora Birch?
I don't know that I have.
A very, very fucked up psychological thriller where her and her friends are in college and they find this bunker and they make that their party spot. And then one day they find out they're all locked inside the bunker and they can't get out.
Really?
It is fucking... It's out there.
That sounds good.
It's intense.
By the way, Blue Ice from 1992 is a film with Michael Caine.
Oh.
Michael Caine and Sean Young.
Oh, Sean Young. Okay.
Yeah. So a former British Secret Service agent falls for an American woman and becomes entangled in a web of espionage.
I don't think that's the same movie I was thinking of.
I do not think so either. Anyway.
So then Agent Cody Banks in 2003.
Now we're cooking with gas,
Agent
kids.
Cody Banks 2, The London Assignment in 2004.
All right.
Then he does Pink Panther 2 in 2009, Outlander TV series 2014, Urban Hymn in 2015, The Bastard Executioner in 2015, shoots Billionaire Ransom, one of the director's last films in 2016, shoots Into the Badlands for AMC in 2018, Asher in 18, Doctor Who in 2018, Pray for the Devil in 2022, and most recently completed shooting on The Rig in 2023.
I've not heard of The Rig.
I believe that's a Netflix original.
Oh, okay.
So moving down to our IMDb synopsis. Oh,
real quick.
Yes, sir.
Totally off topic.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch The Platform when I told you to watch it on Netflix?
No, because I just got my Netflix back, so it's in my watch list again, and I want to watch it really badly.
Are you aware? You're not.
Uh-uh.
Sequel drops in October.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll get on that.
If anybody has not seen the Spanish film The Platform, you should. And the sequel drops in October. Anyway.
So IMDb synopsis says, 4 young friends bound by tragic accident are reunited when they find themselves being stalked by a hook-wielding maniac in their small seaside town.
There is no fat on that. That is dunzo.
My synopsis.
Oh boy.
A tragic accidental hit and run comes back to haunt 4 teens a year later when a hook-wielding psychopath begins to stalk them.
They're the same picture.
I mean, I took out the seaside town.
Yeah, which honestly is the best part, is it really tells you what it's like.
You know me, I'm a sucker for seaside towns, so that's probably why I love this movie.
What are your top 27 seaside town movies?
27, huh?
No, what's one you like?
Storm of the Century by far.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
I mean, it's kind of an easy go-to because you and I talked about this, but I'm blanking on the title. What's Flanagan's vampire story?
Well, if that's a series, not a film.
Yeah, but
and
so
it's
is Storm of the Century.
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass, thank you.
Yeah, Storm of the Century is too. You're right, you suck.
So, our cast is Jennifer Love Hewitt, who plays Julie James in this. She gets her start in 1989 with Kids Incorporated, then goes on to be in Munchie in 1992.
Jim Wynorski can say he discovered her.
Yes,
which
he can.
She denies. That was back when she went by Love Hewitt.
Yeah.
Her first name was Love back then.
Shaky Ground in 1992. Little Miss Millions in 93, which is the poster he shows in Papadopoulos.
Well, and Little Miss Millions and Munchie were both directed by Jim Wynorski.
Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit in 93. Then nails Party of 5 in 1995. Appears in House Arrest in 1996. I Know What You Did Last Summer in 97. Wow, House Arrest was 1 year before that.
Yeah.
She looks so much younger.
Well, I mean, David.
Yes?
I want you to take a second.
Okay.
I'm going to explain puberty to you.
Oh my God.
See, this is why no one takes the time to, is because you're such a brat about it.
Boy Meets World in 1998. Can't Hardly Wait in 1998. Smash Mouth, Can't Get Enough of You Baby video in 98. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer in 98. Hercules, The Adventure of Tom Thumb and Thumbelina. Heartbreakers, Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. Family Guy in 2002. The Tuxedo, American Dreams. Garfield the Movie in 2004. The Truth About Love in 2005. Ghost Whisperer in 2005. Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties in 2006.
Hey, if it works.
Tropic Thunder in 2008, which I don't remember her in.
Shoot. I'm not sure I remember. Maybe she was in one of the trailers.
And more with the casting. Or like when they go to the premieres and stuff, they show the footage.
Maybe. I don't know.
The Client List in 2010. Law & Order SVU 2010. Hot in Cleveland 2011. The Client List TV series in 2012. And most recently, she's been on 911 in 2018.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Sarah Michelle Gellar, next on our cast list, who plays Helen Shivers in this. She was in Burger King commercials in 1982 as a kid.
I saw that in the theater. Yeah, I liked Burger King commercials.
Have you seen any of them?
No, I have not.
It's her, Leah Thompson, Sarah Michelle Gellar. God, who else is it? God, there's another one I can't think of. But like all 3, 4, 5 of them are on YouTube. And
wow, Sarah Michelle Gellar was in the Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, crazy, right? Fuck you. Over the Brooklyn Bridge in 1984, High Stakes in 89, Swan's Crossing in 92, appears on All My Children in 93, then does I Know What You Did Last Summer in 97, gets on Buffy the Vampire Slayer in 97, Scream 2 in 97, Small Soldiers in 1998, King of the Hill in 98, She's All That in 99, Simply Irresistible in 99, Cruel Intentions, Angel, Sex and the City, Harvard Man, does Scooby-Doo in 2002, Scooby-Doo 2 in 2004, The Grudge, Robot Chicken, The Return, Southland Tales, The Grudge 2 in 2006, TMNT in 2007, Veronica Decides to Die in 2009, which I love that title.
That's a good title.
Possession in 2009, The Crazy Ones 2013, Cruel Intentions in 2016, Masters of the Universe Revelation in 2021, and most recently was in Clerks 3 in 2022.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
She has
that.
an appearance as herself. It's pretty cute.
Oh, okay.
And then wrapping us up is Freddie Prinze Jr., who plays Ray Bronson in this. But when I say wrapping this up, there's so many names in this movie. We'll cover a little bit more.
Believe it or not, every single person in this film had a name.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Family Matters in 1995 gets his start. House of Yes in 97.
I mean, I do love me some House of Yes. That is such an
that
upsetting
might come to
film.
the show because that's one that needs to be.
Oh, I'm willing,
people
but
to
that is
discover.
one nobody's ready for.
Nope, not at all.
They're not even vaguely ready for it.
Detention, The Seeds of Johnson High in 97. I Know What You Did Last Summer in 97. Sparkler, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. She's All That. Wing Commander, Down to You in 2000. Boys and Girls in 2000. Head Over Heels. Summer Catch. Frasier. Scooby-Doo. Friends. Scooby-Doo 2. Boston Legal in 2004. The Short-Lived Show Freddie in 2005. Yeah, he had his own show for a bit. George Lopez Show in 2006, The Reef, Happily Never After, Brooklyn Rules, Mass Effect, Bones, Star Wars Rebels, Punky Brewster, and also appeared in Clerks 3 in 2022.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, they're both in the same scene.
Oh, it was like a I Know What You Did Last Summer reunion.
It totally was. So also appearing in the cast, we have Anne Heche, who plays Melissa Egan, Ryan Felipe, who plays Barry Cox. We have Muse Watson, who plays Ben Willis and the Fisherman. And we also have Johnny Galecki, who plays Max.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
From
Big Bang Theory,
Roseanne fame.
Roseanne,
too.
Christmas Vacation. I mean, there's a bunch of sets Galecki's been in. So I Know What You Did Last Summer, unfortunately, at this time of recording, is not streaming anywhere, but you can easily rent it in any place you get your videos from.
Yeah, anywhere you pay to watch a film, you can pay to watch it.
So what was your first time watching I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Oh my gosh, I had a sister who was 9 years older than me.
Yeah.
She had to see it. So, because it came out in what, 98?
96 or 97.
97.
Yeah.
So I was 11 years old. So I'm sure I wanted to watch it, but I guarantee you my sister, being 18 or 19 at that time, was the one who went to Blockbuster Video and rented that film.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had to if you were a teenager.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
So I remember watching it on tape and thinking it was pretty spooky, and violent. And also, even as a young man, being very fascinated by the "What are you waiting for?"
I have some fun trivia about that scene at the end.
Well, good.
Oh my god!
But I remembered liking it. It was definitely, I was already into horror movies because I got into horror movies way too young.
Yeah.
So I always liked it. I liked Scream more as a young man. I did.
Yeah.
And then I remember catching it on HBO a lot.
Okay.
Very early in its release. So I probably watched it on HBO, a few dozen, not even a few dozen, maybe a dozen times. And then I also remember one time renting it for a sleepover.
Oh, hell yeah.
So that's my memory, because being 11, 12 years old when you have Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer out.
Yeah.
That kind of started to replace the mindset of everything being Freddie and Jason.
Yeah.
So you would go to slumber parties and people would be like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. And that was becoming a bigger rite of passage to watch. And then it was kind of the old school heads like me who would be like, I brought Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, you'll see. So, or worse, I brought Sleepaway Camp.
There you go. But I remember the one thing that I remember about the Fisherman in particular is that he actually was on the Boogeyman compilation back in the day.
Oh, man, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he became a staple of that. My first time watching it, though, I was 5 years old when the movie came out, so I did not see it in theaters, nor did I probably see it on
Fucking
video
nerd.
for a while.
Look at that nerdy 5-year-old.
I remember this premiered on TNT, and it was a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
And that was at the time that I was allowed to watch stuff on TV, even if it was technically R-rated.
Well, yeah, because they cut out all the good stuff.
They cut out all the good stuff. So I remember watching this as it premiered, and actually my mom watched it with me, and the 4th of July sequence with Sarah Michelle Gellar's character gave me nightmares because I still remember the nightmare of like just wandering around the dock and the fishermen would like pop out of places. Like that's the shit that I dealt with in my dreams.
So Dave's dreams were like sitting on the dock of the bay.
But I found it scary, really good. And then about 5-6 years ago, you and I on a whim, actually no, I think it was 2020, on a whim, just decided to do 1 and 2 back to back.
Yeah.
And I rememred, I always liked the movie. I think I owned it on VHS. I may even had the triple feature DVD because I had I'll Always Know for a while. But then it was one of those movies that like I had seen it so many times that I kind of forgot how good it was. And then when you and I revisited 1 and 2 back to back, I was just like, God damn, this is a really fun slasher thriller from the 90s.
Yeah, no, I mean it's solid. It really is. And it's delightfully dated.
Yeah,
just like all of those from that era. Just like The Faculty's delightfully dated. Just like all the Scream movies are delightfully dated. So
and the rewatch value is there because the one thing I do remember about the TNT premiere that they did all the time was when it premiered, it would have an encore immediately after.
Oh yeah.
So I remember watching it twice that night. So, are you ready to get into I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Sure. 41 minutes in, let's do it.
Let's do it. So, we open with a beautiful shot of the oceans of the town of Southport while Typo Negative's cover of Summer Breeze serenades us.
So remember when we said delightfully dated? There you go.
So, we are going over the waters, and that's when we see a young man sitting on the edge of a cliff, and he's flipping around a pendant, and we can see the guy's distraught. He does not look like he's in the best spirits, I guess we could say.
He's fine.
He's fine, is that sure?
He's fine.
He's looking down at the water, and, he just is flipping this pendant around, and that's when we see some fireworks go off, and now we're at the 4th of July Southport Festival.
Damn right.
And we're at a seaside town, and that's when we cut to a beauty pageant where we meet Helen Shivers, who's played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, and that's when we also meet her friends Julie, Barry, and Ray as she's on stage, and they're watching her from this balcony as she's being crowned as the Miss Salmon of the, or not Miss Salmon, I'm going back to Humanoids in the Deep.
I was about to say.
She's being crowned for the beauty pageant of their festival, and that's when Max and all the rest of the crew, or excuse me, not Max, Barry, Helen, Julie, all go to the parade, and they're enjoying themselves. We meet Max, played by Johnny Galecki, and he tries to give Julie a drink, and Barry is kind of drunk at this point, and he's not having it, so he gets into a little bit of a fight with him.
I wouldn't call him drunk. I would call him charming.
Charming. Okay, my apologies.
Yeah, he was toasty.
Charming, yes.
Yeah.
So they decide that they're going to go to the beach, and they're going to continue their party there, and we cut to the beach, and they're telling urban legends about the man with the hook, except they're all getting it wrong.
Or they're all getting it right because there are
variations.
a million different variations of the man with the hook.
Yeah, everybody's correcting each other. And so finally, the two begin to separate as Helen and Barry start to make it on the beach. Ray and Julie go for a walk, and Julie gets fake spooked out by Ray as he comes up on her. And that's when they get into a discussion about how she's supposed to be going to college in Boston. And he's like, well, you could come to New York with me. So they're together, but they're getting ready to separate because of college. Heartbreaking indeed. So that's when they eventually decide to leave the beach, and that's when Julie's in the car with Barry, who is just being a complete asshole. She's put off by his drunken behavior. He jacks the radio volume up and then goes out of the sunroof of the car where he is just hooting and hollering, drops the bottle of liquor into the car, which spills into the car, and as they're trying to figure out what to do with the bottle, Ray accidentally plows into somebody that's on the road.
Yeah, somebody walking on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Dressed all in black.
So Barry's covered in blood, and they're freaking out, and he's like, hey, it's not my blood, and that's when they realize they hit something. They don't realize they hit somebody yet, so they grab flashlights, they go along the road. That's when they find the body.
Well, first she finds the boot.
Finds the boot, yes.
I love that. I love that to set it up.
That's the reveal,
It was probably an animal or something. She picks up a boot and she's like,
that deer's wearing boots.
Now, and one thing worth mentioning, this film is the birth of the trope that became really popular, whether you were making a silly horror movie or you were making fun of horror movies.
Yeah.
Of a movie opening with teenagers doing something awful.
Yes.
And then promising it to be a secret, which became very common in horror films.
One of my favorite, there's so many bits in the original Scary Movie that they steal from I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, though, is the sunroof, because he starts getting hit by birds. Like, there's things that are hitting him as they're driving. Like, if you haven't seen Scary Movie in a while, it's absolutely worth a rewatch. So they find the boot, then they find the body, and that's when they start freaking out, because it's Barry's car. He's clearly drunk. And they're going to know right away. The car smells like alcohol. And Julie's like, we got to call the cops. Barry's like, we can't do it. Like, we're going to go down for this. Like, we killed somebody. So that's when they decide that they are going to dump the body. They're going to dump the body on the docks. They're never going to speak of this again. So they go to the docks. They're getting ready to dump the body, and they're arguing about who's going to push it in. Finally, Helen's like, God damn it, I'll do it. So she bends down, and that's when the guy comes back alive, grabs at her, and grabs her crown before they push him in the water. So now he's got her crown from the pageant.
Yes, and a great first scare for the film, other than the scare of hitting the person.
Hitting the person, yeah. So Barry decides to jump back in. He swims down to the bottom, and he goes to get the crown from him. As he pulls it away from the guy, because the guy's grip is still on it, his eyes come open. He looks at him, but Barry quickly resurfaces, and that's when he's like, hey, we're never talking about this again. We're taking this to our grave. Everybody's in agreement with it except for Julie, and that's when he fucking grabs her, puts her against the car, and he's like, no, tell me that you are agreeing with me on this. And Julie says, okay, we'll never speak of this again.
I wish she had been like, tell me, Daria. Called her Daria.
So that's when they go to leave the dock, and the camera zooms in, and we see the pendant that the guy was twirling earlier is on the dock.
And that is the beginning of many mysteries and many hints, many red herrings.
Red herrings indeed. So a year later, Julie's in college. It's summer again, and we find out Julie is being driven back home by her roommate to Southport for the summer, and she's not thrilled about it, because she is clearly just not looking in the best way, and her mom picks us up right away because she gets home to her mom, and her mom's like, are you on drugs? Like, I just wanted to throw that out just to see your reaction.
Yeah, she looks more grizzled than you should from college, maybe.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Who knows? Maybe she's popping Ritalin like they're chiclets, but she definitely, one of the things I really appreciated on this most recent viewing was you can see how much the weight of that secret
messes with all of them,
but especially her. But you're right though. It shows how it weighs on all of them in different ways. Because like Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, like leans harder into being super shiny and perky and bubbly, as to where Jennifer Love Hewitt's character is definitely more like what you might expect.
Yeah.
Her eyes have bags under them.
Yeah.
Her hair is always kind of a mess. She doesn't really care about her appearance.
No.
And she also hasn't been keeping in touch
with any of them.
Or even her own mother.
Yeah.
Because her mother seems, excited to find out what's been going on.
And something I heard on this viewing that I never heard before, did her dad die while she was away and she never came back?
That I don't recall.
Because she says your dad would be turning over his grave if he could see you now.
I think her father passed away a while ago.
Yeah. So her mom is like, I just worry about you, and I'm glad you're home. And that's when Julie goes into her bedroom, and she sees that there's a letter on her desk that's written to her, and she's like, who sent this? And she's like, oh, it just came with the mail. And that's when she opens it up to see a note written in black that says, I know what you did last summer. Who farted?
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Have you ever guessed? You ever heard Nick Swartzen's bit about that? About who farted?
No.
He talks about it's in one of his original stand-up routines, which I think is called Seriously Who Farted, and he talks about how he wants to go to a sporting event where they have the t-shirt gun, and he's like go to the crowd and be like, who wants a t-shirt? And everybody's like, ah, and he's like, nope, and then just blows his brain out. But before he says, he goes, who farted? She's just making the crowd go, hey, guys, don't go over there. He said it farted. Like, that might be bad.
Oh, my God.
That's funny. That original stand-up bit's really good. So she gets the note, and the next day, Julie goes to visit Shiver's store, trying to get Helen's New York number from her sister, Elsa. And one thing I forgot to mention in the original party of the 4th of July party a year ago, she runs into Elsa, who is played by Bridget Wilson, and you can tell that her and her sister don't get along super well. So
you think?
Yeah, just a little bit.
There is a lot of tension between them.
That never lessens up.
Well, I mean, it does when one of them dies.
Spoilers.
Oh, I'm so sorry. This almost 30-year-old film that's a horror slasher movie does have some people die in it.
It does. It does indeed.
Where's the button?
Spoiler alert.
So she goes to Shiver's store and she's like, Elsa, I need Helen's New York number. And she's like, Helen's New York number? And she's like, yeah, I need to contact her. She's like, well, Helen's not in New York. And that's when we find out that Helen went to New York briefly. It didn't work out. And now she's back working at the store.
Yes. And she's clearly not the girl she was.
No.
She's beaten down by life.
And smoking cigarettes immensely.
Well, which luckily, I mean, at least she looked cool.
She did look cool.
Yeah.
So that's when Julie shows the note to Helen, and Helen's like, well, who could this be? Who could know? And that's when they also are asking if Barry has seen it yet. So they go to visit Barry at his parents' house, revealing that he and Helen have broken up. So over a year's time, he and Helen have broken up, and Barry does not believe it. He's like, this is some bullshit, like somebody's fucking with us. Wait a minute. Maybe it's Max, because one thing I forgot to mention too is when they initially hit the body, Max is actually driving down that same road, and they have to go hide like Barry's puking in the grass, and Max sees that there's something going on.
Yeah, he just suspects something, but he's an outsider in the group, so he's used to being kind of pushed away. So that's when they decide that they're going to go visit Max at his job, but Barry wastes no time, finds Max at the dock, and he's like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And then just goes in the back and threatens him with a hook. And he's like, if you tell anybody, I'll fucking kill you. Yeah, he works at a fishery.
Yeah.
And he pulls a hook right off of a big block of ice and basically says, I will kill you if you ever talk to us again, and I mean it.
Yeah. In that Ryan Felipe anger fit that we can only talk about.
My God, no, like I wonder how his corneas were doing after yelling that loud that much.
I made that joke where it's like he lashes out this entire film to where it's like, all right, I'll take a Coke. Is Pepsi okay? No.
It's almost as good as the guy in Disturbing Behavior.
My God.
Will you go to the prom with me? No. Why not?
I said no. Oh, Disturbing Behavior is so good.
Hey, that might be good for a month we're planning.
Ooh, that might be, actually. Yeah, you're right. So they leave the dock, and as they're leaving the dock, they run into Ray, who is now also taken up as a fisherman at the dock, too. So he's back in town as well. And he's working. He's got his own boat, and that's when we cut back to Max, who is in the back. He's preparing ice for the fish. He puts his hook on the ice, goes in, starts dropping some crabs into the water, comes back out, and his hook's gone. And he doesn't see this, only the viewers do. And as he's leaning over this table, all of a sudden, a fisherman comes out, hooks him under the jaw, pulls him across the table, leaving a huge streak of blood.
And for those who have never seen this film, which you should see it or have seen it, the killer is in a full-body
fisherman gear.
Well, like a raincoat a fisherman would wear.
Yeah.
That is very iconic.
Yes.
And honestly, when it comes to that era of slasher movie, they did a pretty good job of having it be something original, something we wouldn't expect. Both the cloak, the fact that there's no face, but there's no mask.
No mask,
It's just kind of obscured.
The hood's up, yeah.
And the hook.
Yeah.
It sells it all.
Everything.
Because, otherwise we've got like Scream, he's wearing a Halloween mask, he's got a knife, but we got the fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Summer, or as I call him, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'm like, oh God, I know what you did last summer's in the back of the car. He's going to kill you.
Oh God, watch out for Die Hard.
Oh God, I hope they don't catch Die Hard and shoot him.
So that we cut to Barry, who is going to the gym, and he's going to work out, and he's getting ready to get dressed and leave, and he hears something in the locker room. So he returns from the shower, and he finds a Polaroid of his car, because keep in mind, his car was used in the accident, and again, on the back of it, it says, I know.
Look at this photograph.
It says, I know, written on the back. And so he goes back to his locker and he finds his jacket's missing, which means his car keys are missing. So he goes out to the front to the desk and he's like, hey, has anybody been in here? And the guy's like, no, just you and me, bud. Then all of a sudden we hear a car start. He races out front to see somebody's in his car stealing it. He runs after the car until the car gets to the end of the dock and then decides to stop, turns its headlights on, and pursues right after him.
Yeah, and this is one of the first big
menacing chase sequences.
Suspense scenes.
Yeah. So he ends up getting cornered at him, and he gets hit by the car as it drives forward, pushing him right through a building that ends up crashing. And that's when the figure gets out of the car, and his rain slicker approaches him, shows off his hook, Barry screams, and then the scene cuts. And
I wonder what happened.
We're now at the hospital as Julie arrives along with Ray and Helen at the same time, and Barry tells them he couldn't see the face, and Julie's convinced that he was trying to kill him, and they have to go to the police. And Barry is like, no, man, he wasn't trying to kill me. He was just trying to scare me.
Yeah.
And that's when Ray makes a joke about, it's just a fishing village. There shouldn't be too many slickers to figure out. And that's when Barry's like, well, buddy, you have one that we've all seen too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's when they start to question if it's Ray. Barry questions Ray having one, and Julie tries to convince them to go to the police, but Barry's still against it. So Julie says they should try to reach out to the people that knew David Egan. And David Egan is the guy that they hit with their car. His body was found later.
The guy they murdered.
The guy they Merds.
They murds. I'm the one who's supposed to be tired, not you.
So they need to find out who knew David Egan, and that's when Julie and Helen go to find Egan's kin via the local records on the internet, and they find out that Egan was also unfortunately responsible for the death of his fiancée, but they find out that he had a sister, Missy, who still lives in the area in the sticks, so they drive out there. And
that's where we get to meet a very, very broken, sad Anne Heche.
Anne Heche, yes.
And she kills it in this small role.
Absolutely.
She really makes it matter.
Yeah.
A lot.
So they're sneaking around her house, and that's when Missy, who's Anne Heche, catches them, and they're like, oh, well, our car broke down. We need to use a phone. So she invites them in, and Julie this whole time is kind of playing with her, trying to get some details from her, and that's when Missy tells her about David. She tells her about Susie, and basically you can, like Henrik said, she's just distraught. There's trauma all throughout this film, like you pointed out.
Well, and the way she walks, the way Anne Heche's character moves, it's also a stark reality, because if you watch the film the way I think you're supposed to be on the side of the teenagers to some extent.
Yeah.
Like even with the killing of the fisherman, it wasn't on purpose.
No.
They were only being moderately reckless.
Yeah.
Would you say that's a fair statement?
I would say so, yeah.
Because Jennifer Love Hewitt was the character driving, right?
No, Ray was driving.
Ray was driving?
Freddie's driving. She's next to him, and Barry's in the back.
Right.
Sarah.
So my point is the drunkest people are not driving.
Not driving. No.
So they were being modestly irresponsible.
Yeah.
The person on the side of the road was wearing all black in the middle of the night on the side of a highway.
Yep.
So I think are supposed to feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Because it's they're right. This would ruin the beginning of all of their lives. And they all have the cruel irony of a slasher movie, their whole lives ahead of them. So it does. That hits you hard.
Yeah.
But Anne Heche's character is that moment where you realize it's not about these fucking prissy teenagers. They're not the only ones so haunted by what they did. They caused real harm and real damage in real life. It's not a game. It's not pretend.
Yeah.
They really hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody very deeply, not just the person they killed.
No.
Because there's also a reference, as you're going to get to in a second, but Anne Heche's character even mentions mom lives in a nursing home. She didn't take it well when my brother died.
Well, because Missy lives alone.
Yeah,
she has a giant house to herself, and you can tell, she even says she doesn't get many visitors.
Yeah, and that's my point. It's it becomes clear that the reason she's a loner is because of this deep trauma that's hit her and her family.
Yeah.
And at the epicenter are those 4 good-looking teenagers that we're all so excited to root for.
Yep.
But this is kind of a moment where the reality kind of sets in, that they're not the only ones traumatized. They're not the only ones suffering.
Yeah, and Missy also tells them that one of David's friends named Billy Blue did come to visit her to pay his respects a while back, but she only saw him the one time, and that's the only name she knows him by. So they quickly leave because Julie's just overcome with emotion being in his house, and they're sitting in their car smoking and talking, and that's when Missy comes up, gives them a scare because she's like, hey, you forgot your cigarettes.
Yeah, because she thinks they're waiting for AAA.
AAA, yeah. So that's when they make their way back to town, and we see Helen and Julie kind of get into a little bit because she's just so distraught, and Helen's like, we just need to forget about this, move on, it's nothing to worry about, and she's like, well, it's easy for you to say. So they end up dropping Helen off at her house. Helen goes inside to her house, and as she gets in her house, she talks to her dad for a little bit, goes in the kitchen, gets a drink, and then the killer enters her house.
How rude.
How rude indeed. So we see the fisherman right in the doorway of her house.
This is the beginning of us starting to understand the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
The killer is not a vampire.
It's not a vampire because he can enter.
Without being invited.
Without being invited. This is true.
I'm being a goofball.
Man, vampire fisherman. I like that.
Well, I guess there's some good fishing at night. You could just dive in. You don't need to breathe.
So
there's something wrong with the net. Fuck you. Fuck.
Fucketh me.
Fucketh me. Dave, do you want to just turn the show to Rumpelstiltskin?
God, if we ever do an episode on that show, I don't know. So the killer is inside her house, so we see her making her way around the house. She goes towards the stairs. We see the fisherman's at the top of the stairs. She has no idea he's in the house. And they kind of play this up beautifully with the suspense. Not kind of. They totally do, because her dad's watching TV. you kind of think her dad might get it a little bit.
You know, they constantly are misdirecting you. It's one of the things that makes the movie so effective.
So now the killer's in her room, hiding in her closet. She goes into her room, and that's when she's brushing her hair, and her sister Elsa spooks her, and she's like, my God, you know, your hair, you're so pathetic. And she's like, hey, we have inventory tomorrow. I need you at the store at 10. And Helen's like, well, I'm part of the parade tomorrow for the 4th of July festival. I have to be on the float, so I can't do it. And that's when she calls her pathetic again, and she leaves. So then Helen gets ready for bed. She goes to sleep. The killer's still in the closet. So the next morning we wake up and we see that Helen's hair has been cut through the night.
Which kind of made me laugh because she like sits up freaking out. And it's like, my hair's been cut into a much more modern style.
And then on her bedroom mirror, written in red, soon.
Which honestly is the best. I recommend anytime you're going to write anything on anyone's door, mirror, window, it should be soon.
That is good.
Yeah.
So she calls Julie, who races to her house. But on the drive, Julie hears something scratching around in her trunk. So she pulls off the side of the road, opening the trunk, and that's when we see the body of Max covered in crabs crawling around him, out of him.
And we mean literal crabs.
Literal crabs.
Not VD.
So Max has crabs on him, and he's dead in the trunk. And that's when she decides to just run from the car to Helen's house because she's close.
And it's heinous. He's slimy and disgusting.
So she finds Barry with Helen, and they return to her car to find it empty now. And that's when Julie freaks out, and, she's like, he's waiting for us. We don't know what's going to happen next. He's after us. And that's when we get the infamous screaming to the sky, what are you waiting for?
Well, but I want to say something.
Yeah, you made a good point.
Yeah, I don't know about the scene with the dead body because it could just be a plot hole.
Yeah.
But in the film, literally, she opens up her trunk and it is filled to the brim.
Like with 50 crabs ice his body.
But it's slimy because, he's from the water or whatever. And then when she opens it again, not only is he not there, not only are all the crabs not there, and that would have been in the span of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's dry.
Dry.
I'm assuming it doesn't smell, or else her friends would be like, it does smell like a seafood restaurant in here.
Yeah.
Part of me wondered if maybe that was her guilt manifesting.
It's a good point to make, honestly.
Because you even said, like, well, how would she know that so-and-so had died? It's like, well, maybe she was just afraid of the threats that were being made to him. Because Ryan Felipe's character, Barry, is a real wild card. He scares the shit out of her.
Yeah.
And she believes he would kill to protect his reputation.
Yeah.
So part of me wonders if, and the fact that she saw him in Barry's coat.
Yeah.
That all makes me think that maybe she had this like subconscious fear that Barry was going to start killing people.
Yeah.
And Barry had beat the crap out of that guy before.
Yeah.
He had beat him up in the first fucking scene of the movie. He beats up on him.
It's a really good point. The only issue I have with it is the scratching in the back.
Well, but I mean, if you can hallucinate a dead body in your trunk, you're like, look, bro, you may be able to see a whole full color thing.
You can't hear sounds.
Yeah, you're not going to hallucinate a sound, especially not a little scritchety scratch, which was a cool callback to the hook.
Yeah, I did notice that, yeah. So they return to Helen's house when they find Ray arriving, who gets pushed by Barry, and he's convinced it's Ray. Like, and when I say pushed, he gets fucking punched out.
Yeah, he socks him, and it's so aggressive and out of nowhere.
Hey, bro, boom!
It's pretty funny. Yeah. Well, and that Freddie Prinze has like a foot on him.
Yeah.
So he has to jump up to like just clean his clock.
Absolutely. So Julie tells them that they have to stick together. They can't be against each other now because that's what he wants. And that's when she's convinced that they've got to find this Billy Blue guy. So they go to check the yearbook that Missy graduated from because she talks about the year she graduated. And that's when Julie and Helen discuss showing the book to Missy to see if she can point out somebody. Point out who Billy Blue is. And Helen offers to go with Julie, but Julie tells her no. She needs to stay at the parade because he may show up at the parade. And I love Helen's response. She's like, I don't want him to show up at the parade. So that's when they're convinced that, that's what they got to do. Ray, of course, is like, hey, what if we just leave town and never speak of this again?
That would have been my move.
Yeah. What if we just leave? And that's when Julie's like, I've tried running. I'm tired of doing it. We just have to face this head on. So now we cut to the 4th of July parade as we see Helen on top of the float, moving through the town, but also Barry is seated at the front of the float as well, kind of keeping watch for her. And she sees a guy in the crowd that looks exactly like the killer, so Barry runs off after him, and that's when he ends up tackling a brittle old man on the dock.
Well, I mean, for the record, the only type of old man that hangs out on docks are brittle.
Brittle.
Yeah. It's actually federal law. It's OSHA.
I just feel every time I watch this, I feel bad for that guy because it looks like he's having a heart attack. Like,
no, it totally does. No, it's really sad.
So he tackles the guy. It's clearly not him. And that's when Julie returns to Missy's house. She finds Missy out back skinning animals because that's what Missy does. And she's gotten fish at this point. And back on the float, we go back to Helen, who catches sight of the fisherman, who is now on one of the balconies as she passes. And he just gives her a shiny, hey, here's my hook, as she goes by.
It's kind of nice, to be noticed.
Oh my God. So that's when Missy is out back with Julie, and Julie explains what happened last year, that it wasn't an accident. And Missy says that she knows that, David wasn't murdered. He committed suicide, actually. And that's when she brings up a note that she got, and it's the same note that Julie has, matching the handwriting. So she's like, this isn't a suicide note. This is a death threat.
Yeah.
So David is now supposedly been killed by somebody, and now they don't think that they killed David, actually.
But that means, who did they kill?
Who could it be?
Could it be any number of red herrings?
So that's when Julie goes to leave back to town, revealing that she thinks that it's not a suicide note. Missy is not convinced, and Julie talks about, well, I saw a tattoo that said Susie, and she's like, well, my brother didn't have a tattoo. Even more putting forth that it is not David that they killed.
That the identity is unknown of who they believe they may have killed.
So now it's later that night. We cut to the beauty pageant where Helen sits on the stage because as she was the winner last year, she is now as the watcher on the program. And Barry watches from the balcony, just like the beginning with all three of them. The pageant gets underway, and Helen watches in horror as the first person goes up, but then looks up to see that Barry has the fisherman standing right behind him.
I thought you were going to say she watched in horror as the person who goes up to perform is clearly like 35 years old.
Yeah, you did point that out. So
I'm not wrong.
No, you're not. She starts freaking out, and she runs into the crowd. The crowd's trying to stop her. They're trying to make sure that she's okay. A cop comes in to intervene, but while this is happening, we see Barry just getting killed with this hook.
Yeah, he's getting the fuck killed out of him.
He is stabbed to death, and that's when the officer's like, all right, well, we'll go up and check. So he takes Helen up, tells her to hold back, and he goes up there, and they don't find anything because he's clearly not looking hard enough, because as they go to leave, blood is dripping off one of the crates that's up on the balcony.
Hey, cops are never incompetent.
No, never.
Not IRL, not in movies.
That's why we're bad cops. So the officer offers to take Helen home as she's distraught, and no one believes her. Back at her house, Julie searches for more information on David Egan, going to the same website she went to last time. Back in the cop car, the officer questions Helen about the fisherman, and is he the one that did he use a hook to cut your hair? And she's like, no, he used scissors, you asshole. Like they're bantering back and forth and arguing for a bit. And I gotta say, on this watch, the cop's really not being a dick.
Well, and for the record, these kids are, most of them are just the most snotty, spoiled.
Yeah.
Well,
fuck, when they go to see Barry, when they reconnect with him, he's in a mansion on the water.
Oh, yeah, well, that's why Barry's so intense.
Yeah.
Barry has everything to lose.
Yeah.
As to where, the other three have a lot of potential for their lives. One wants to be a beauty queen, one wants to go to college and have some big job, and blah, 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 blah. He's already there. Barry is wealthy. He's set for life. And the one thing he doesn't need is this kind of thing. And and by the way, speaking of that scene where he is at the mansion, it's worth pointing out, I don't think that Barry and you notice how distant he is with his mother.
With his mother.
I don't think that that's just because he's a rich asshole. I think that's because of the person he became after killing
the accident.
After the murder.
Yeah.
I really do. Because all of them are off.
Well, I think it's worth pointing out too that you just said it, like we see his mom and we see Julie's mom. We don't see anybody else except for Helen's dad, which we don't even talk to.
Yeah, that's true.
So we really don't see much of the parental life except for Julie being like, Julie's mom being like, you never come around anymore. I've been worried about you. We don't really talk to any of the other parents.
Yeah, it's true. It which is also a trope of a lot of these teen scream slasher movies is less parents.
And I also feel like there was mention that Helen's mom ran off.
That does sound right.
Yeah, so it's definitely the home life.
Well, that would explain why her older sister is the queen bitch.
Yeah,
that would. It's like, Daddy put me in charge of the store.
Yep, that would totally make sense. So that is when they decide that they have to take a detour around down an alley, because as the cops driving through the street, one of the streets are blocked off. So he's like, okay, we gotta go down this alley. And they see a guy struggling with his vehicle at the end of the alley, and he just happens to be in fisherman gear, but Helen doesn't see this. The cop gets out. He's like, I'll be right back. And that's when Helen sees that it's the killer. Too late, the cop is stabbed right in the gut, right before her, and Helen's freaking out now because she's locked in the back of this cop car.
And another reason why it's such a great killer design. Anybody in that town is going to have a slicker.
Yeah.
Anybody.
So a cop seeing the guy in the slicker, he's going to be like, oh, yeah, I'll go help this guy.
Yeah, he'll be like, oh, yeah, well, this is before smartphones. It's like, I didn't listen to the radio. It's probably going to rain.
Yeah.
It rains all the time when you live on the ocean.
So she is frantically trying to get out of the cop car. She finally kicks the window out, climbs through it, and the killer is right in pursuit behind her. Back, Julie finds out that Susie's Susie, David's fiance, is survived by her father, Benjamin Willis, a local fisherman in Southport.
Which is so questionable because how many people are fishermen in this town?
Crazy.
No more than nearly all of them.
So Helen races to Shiver's store as she's running through town, and she gets help from Elsa, which this was a part that you and I talked about, where it's just like, why is it that so many people in horror films, when people are panicking,
Oh, yeah. In horror movies, it's like the moment you're pounding on a door going, please open up, somebody's gonna kill me. All of a sudden you like forget how to understand human emotions or that there's an urgency.
Yeah.
You just like go like, oh, just let me get my key and open up this Fanta.
Well, it's like, I made the joke. It's like, is this a prank? We've been 4th of July to death tonight.
That killed me. I like how you're like, I got a good one. I'm gonna remember it for the show.
Yep.
Dick.
Yep. so Elsa finally lets her in, and she's like, lock the back door, lock the front door, like something's going on, and she's like, what's going on? She's like, just listen to me, damn it, go do this. So Elsa immediately goes to the back door, locks it, and then is ambushed by the killer, who slices her right across the throat, and we see blood splatter across the window, but she gets a scream out as Helen is trying to call the police.
And then we see him in a second. He's carrying her with the hook right up her ribcage.
Yes.
Yeah. No, he's not dragging her. He's holding her up.
Yeah, you're right. No, yeah. So he's carrying her across the store, and that by this point, Helen's like, okay, something's not right. So she calls to Elsa, no answer. And this is a beautiful sequence of tension and terror because we are in this department store that is mostly blacked out. Like, it's dim throughout. There's some light music playing, and it's just silent.
Yeah, it's super creepy.
So she starts wandering around, and that's when she goes towards the front. And these mannequins are covered in plastic, and that's when she realizes one of the mannequins is actually the fisherman who lunges out at her. So Helen starts running through the Shivers department store, finds a dumbwaiter, and goes to the second floor right as the fisherman also reaches the second floor. So that's when she decides that she's just going to jump out the window into a trash pile, so now she's outside.
You worked retail quite a bit.
Yeah.
How creepy is it when it's just you?
Very. Very creepy.
Yeah, I know that nowadays it's become called liminal spaces.
Yeah.
The idea you're somewhere where lots of people are normally, but lots of people aren't there right now.
Did I ever tell you the story about when I was taking trash out at one of the malls I worked when I was doing FYE?
I don't think so.
So, I believe it was, so it would have been Kenwood Mall in Cincinnati, and I was taking the trash out one night, and I had to go down basically 2 long corridors because our store was in the center and the trash was like on the other side by one of the exits, and I had to go down these 2 corridors, and I get outside, and there are 3 kids standing by this dumpster beating the shit out of a homeless guy.
Jesus Christ.
And I immediately go back inside. I call the police, and these kids are banging on the door because they saw me. They're banging on the door because they're like,
because you're a snitch.
I'm a snitch. I'm a witness and everything.
Yeah.
Well, then I start making my way back down the corridor. They're banging on every single fucking exit door as I go down this corridor, like almost tracking me back to this building. So finally I got to the mall security. I called him, and he stood around the store until I locked up and walked outside. Right as I'm leaving the parking lot, I see the kids come around the building, and I'm fucking bolting.
Sure.
It was scary. Like I completely, it was one of those situations where I had a lot of weird experiences at that mall. That was the one that I literally feared for my life at one point.
Well, Kenwood is extremely close to Cincinnati. It's basically a Cincinnati mall.
Yeah.
For those who don't know Ohio, Cincinnati is one of the largest cities in the state. Yeah. And therefore you get all of the fun.
There is a happy ending to that story, though.
Oh, so you got a hand job?
No, the 3 kids ended up getting arrested that night because they were also found carrying, if I remember correctly, 3 stilettos, and I think one of them had a gun, if I'm not mistaken.
Look, I'm not trying to be a hippie about it, but like if they want to wear high heels, I don't see what the big deal is. That's their lives.
They had 3 knives and a gun. That's all I know.
Oh, you could have taken them.
I could have taken them.
If you hadn't lost your yellow belt.
If I hadn't, oh man, you're right. Goddamn yellow belt.
You could have literally taken your yellow belt out, but and they would have all been like, man, let's get out of here. And they would have ran off.
I do remember my manager coming in the next morning and he's like, hey, why didn't you take out trash that night? And I was like, go talk to Ralph, the security guard.
And then Ralph was like, it has a death kiss. You're all going to die.
So Helen's outside now, and this is about the time that Julie arrives back at the location where the pageant is. It's completely empty. Everybody's gone home, and so she makes her way outside just as Helen is back outside, and she has no idea where to go. Suddenly, fireworks start going off, so she follows the fireworks. She sees the parade is going again. She's going right towards the parade, and right as she turns, the fisherman grabs her, pulls her to the side while these fireworks and the parade are going off.
Sequence.
She gets stabbed in all the ambience of the fireworks and the parade. Like, it is a really intense sequence that I cannot recommend enough.
But a great sequence, and probably one of the reasons you picked it as a summer film because of the direct reference to the 4th of July.
Yep. So that is when we lose Helen, unfortunately, and Julie returns to town, making her way to the docks. She's searching for Ray, and she finds him on his boat, and she tells him that she believes the killer is Ben Willis, who killed Egan before they hit him. They hit Ben, I mean. And Ray invites Julie on the boat so they can discuss it, and that's when Julie sees the name of his boat is Billy Blue.
And I want to say, sincerely, what a great twist.
Yeah.
Because, let me finish.
I'm listening.
No, because to find out not only is the person you wronged not the person you thought, but the person you wronged was a fucking murderer themselves.
Yeah.
That's such a great twist.
Yeah.
For it to be like, oh no, it was this guy who just probably murdered somebody definitely murdered somebody right before you encountered him. And that's
so
why
good.
But then that also makes sense. Why was he all in black? Why was he walking on the highway? Why was he, why was it so secretive? And why did he never go to the police?
Yeah. No, it's absolutely.
But what I always wondered is, like, he must have just been festive, though. He was like, if I send them, I know what you did last summer in the winter, they're going to think it was the summer before. So I'm going to wait. You got to minimum the following summer.
There we go.
It's the only way.
To do it.
Because it's like, I can't just say, I know what you did last season. It doesn't carry. He's just like sitting there workshopping it all night, like with a flashlight under his blanket.
The one thing I will say, thinking about the twist in regards to it, is like, yeah, he killed Egan and then got killed, but then got hit by that car. It makes me think of spoiler alert if you haven't seen the film Unknown with Liam Neeson.
Spoiler alert.
It makes me think of how weak that twist was in that film, where it was revealed of what he was, and I was just like, well, the company just would have fucking killed him then.
Yeah.
There would have been none of him solving who he is.
I watched that at the Danbury Dollar Cinema.
Oh, Danbury. I miss Danbury.
I miss you, Danbury.
So by this point now, Julie is freaking out. She's like, oh my God, you're the killer. So she flees and she's running across the dock. Ray's chasing after her. And that's when Ray is punched out by a fisherman. And he's like, get on the boat, child. Like, I'll take care of you. So he punches Ray out and Julie gets on the boat and she's entering the loft below. And that's when she sees a hat like the killer has.
Mm-hmm.
She makes her way into the room. And that's when she sees a shrine of newspaper clippings, both about Susie's death. She sees pictures of her and her friends all throughout this movie that we've seen scenes of. And that's when she puts it together that he is Ben Willis, and Ben Willis is in fact the killer in I Know What You Did Last Summer.
That's a cliche we need to bring back. The shrine.
The shrine, yeah.
Shrines were
everywhere.
In everything.
Yeah.
So we got to bring back the shrine. Even American Nightmare had a shrine.
Nightmare had a shrine. You're not wrong.
So American Nightmare, which was heavily influenced.
Correct me if I'm wrong, American Nightmare also has a shot of him at the coffee shop that it's like, how did he get that?
You mean she?
Oh, she. Yeah, you're right. Never mind. I'm quitting the show.
Well, there's a lot about the coffee shop that's left unanswered in American Nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, because I just remembered who. Yep.
Yeah, let's get back to
We'll talk about American Nightmare at some point.
Let's get back to spoiling a different movie.
Yeah. So that's when, she tries to escape him, and Ben, not giving away his hand yet, he's like, are you okay? Like, it's 4th of July. Kids should be out having fun, drinking, partying, running over people, getting away with murder. And that's when she is completely, of the understanding that that is who it is, and he is not hiding any point. So that's when he also reveals his hook, and Julie goes off running, realizing that the boat has now left the dock. So they're not at the dock anymore.
Yeah, no, they're at sea.
Yeah, so Ray comes to, and he gets in a small boat, races off towards them. Julie, trying to arm herself, gets a flare, but right as she grabs the flare, Ben speeds the boat up, knocking her to the ground. The flare goes into the water, so now she is unarmed, and he's watching her, of course, from the deck, because I love that scene where she looks up, and he's just like, I fucking got you.
Yeah, no, this is such a great finale.
Yes. So Ray, catching up to the boat, climbs onto the boat, and he starts facing off with Ben and his hook right on, and Julie makes her way below deck as Ray's fighting off Ben. Julie emerges from the bottom right as Ben is in front of her, and he knocks Ray into the water. She goes back down as Ben makes his way down, and Julie quickly hides in the icebox of the boat. And that's where she discovers the bodies of Helen and Barry, disturbingly.
in just hundreds of pounds of ice.
Like, she goes to move one thing, and Helen's body comes out. She gets freaked out, goes back, and she puts her hands on Barry's cold face. And Ray is next seen in the water. He's grabbing at the net and begins to climb the mast back onto the ship. Julie climbs out of the icebox right up to Ben, who is quickly knocked to the ground by Ray with the hook. He swings a rope with a hook on it, which knocks him out. And that's when Ben's hand gets hooked onto the rope. Ray activates it, Ben gets pulled up, and his hand gets fucking severed.
He gets shot up to the top of the mast of the boat.
Yes.
Probably a good 18 feet.
Yep.
And then right when he hits the top, it just takes his hand right off.
With the hook still on it.
Which, by the way, if you've ever hung out with grizzled sea workers, and I have one time, that's how they describe how quick you lose a hand on a boat.
I can imagine.
They're like, and then all of a sudden a rope's moving quick and your hand's gone.
So his hand is severed. Ray joins Julie, and that is when we see that Ben is also thrown into the water. They get stopped by the police. Ray explains he visited Missy, posing as a friend out of his guilt, and the police end up going to pull up the net, revealing that Ben's severed hand is in it, but no body is there. So his hand's still clutching the hook, and that's when the cop's like, oh, don't worry, the body will turn up sooner or later. Now it's 1 year later. Julie's in college in Boston, getting ready to take a shower as she's talking to Ray on the phone. Her friend tells her that she has mail, so she exits the shower room, goes out to find an envelope written exactly like Ben's handwriting from the original note, and she opens it up to find a party invitation for a pool party. She's calm, everything's good. Now she goes back into the shower room. It's completely steamed over, and she approaches one of the doors that's written, I still know, on it. She looks around, sees no one, and then suddenly hears a crash as the killer crashes through the glass, ending 1997's I Know What You Did Last Summer.
And what an ending. I really do love I Know What You Did Last Summer. I need to read the book.
Oh, the good book's good.
I'm curious, how much of the book is in the movie?
Not very much.
Really?
There's not a single death except for the initial.
Well, that doesn't matter, but I mean, like, is the ending on a boat?
No.
Oh.
No.
Wow.
You want me to spoil the book?
Well, it's only been like 67 years or something. Yeah.
Barry is the killer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Barry turns out to be related to who they hit, and he goes to strangle Julie. That's when Ray shows up. I think he either kills Barry or knocks him out. I think he knocks him out.
That is a hell of a twist.
It's a good book.
Really strong twist.
So, would you like to know what the budget of the film was? Or would you like to guess?
No, I think I know.
Okay. What is
it? It's under 20.
Yep.
Because back then that was the way they did things.
Correct.
15?
$17 million is the budget.
Okay.
Opening weekend for U.S. and Canada, it makes $15 million. Released on October 19th of 1997. Box office totaling $125.3 million.
Now, I find that interesting.
Okay.
Because I looked up Scream.
I was curious.
And Scream's budget is reported at 14 to 15 million.
Yep.
Which it makes sense. They didn't know what a big hit it was going to be. They didn't know how popular this concept was.
Yeah.
But their box office was 173.
Damn. That's 50-ish, almost 50 lower than this.
Yeah.
Damn. That's still a
50 higher.
50 higher, yeah. But that's still a good moneymaker.
No, they're both huge successes.
Huge success, yeah.
I just was curious to see what they put in, yeah.
Speaking of Scream real quick, just off topic, did you know that Skeet Ulrich almost gave away the twist of the movie when he was doing PR for it? Right when he got cast?
No.
So I heard this on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast. He was talking to him, and Skeet was doing PR for something. It wasn't Scream, but they were like, oh, you know what new projects do you have coming up? He's like, oh, I'm getting ready to play a serial killer in this new movie.
Oh my God.
So then he immediately calls his agent, and he's like, I did something bad.
That is hilarious.
So they were able to pull it from the interview, but I was just like, that's hilarious.
Oh, my God.
So I Know What You Did Last Summer was a screenplay written by Kevin Williamson in the 1980s and part of the 90s. It was not until 1996 that the screenplay was rushed into production by Columbia Pictures upon the success of Williamson's written Scream, which was released the same year.
Wait, so Kevin Williamson wrote an adaptation of a Lewis Duncan book.
In the 80s, yeah.
Oh, just because he was a fan of it, I guess. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So principal photography began March 31st in 1997. It was a 10-week shoot. 7 of the 10 took place at night, and Gillespie devised a color scheme with the cinematographer, Denise Cresson, which was marked by heavy blues throughout and a notable lack of bright colors. Which is
definitely.
Absolutely
well,
true.
And that was the beginning of that being the norm for quite a while in Hollywood.
The ice inside the storage of the boat was made from gelatin, so Jennifer Love Hewitt could comfortably move around inside.
Yeah, I mentioned when I looked at it, I was like, that's movie ice.
Yep. Writer Lois Duncan was vehemently opposed to her young adult novel being reworked into a slasher film, stating she was appalled in one interview. This was due to the fact that her youngest daughter was murdered by an unknown assailant in 1989. She said, as the mother of a murdered child, I don't find violent death something to squeal and giggle about. Her original book wasn't that far off from a slasher, though. It's still a bunch of guilty teenagers being stalked and terrorized by a murderous madman. It's just nobody dies in her version, so that in a sense, it's more like an old school mystery.
Yeah, well, and that was a sign of the times, too.
Yeah. Jennifer Love Hewitt had just appeared along former screen queen Jamie Lee Curtis in House Arrest prior to filming this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anne was surprised to see that she was also filming a movie in North Carolina at the same time. Jennifer said Jamie came over to the soundstage to wish her luck on her first horror film and would come over every day after to give her a hug.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah.
The rocky roads surrounding Dawson's Beach, where Julie, Ray, Helen, and Barry have their hit and run, and later Julie travels across frequently, is the same mountainous roadside location used in Alfred Hitchcock classic, The Birds.
Shit, okay.
The set relocated from North Carolina to California for the scene where the 4 teenagers run over the man. Producer Eric Feig said North Carolina was the flattest state and that they needed a more curvy and dangerous-looking road.
I mean, overall, that's true, especially if you're on the beach, the coastal side.
Yeah.
But North Carolina's got some, but yeah, California's got the winding roads out the ass.
The original trailer, a.k.a. the trailer that we played at the beginning of the show, for the movie described Kevin Williamson and said the movie as the creator of Scream. Miramax owners of Scream successfully sued Columbia Pictures for false advertising, and the phrase was removed.
Yeah, that's not
smart.
Wise, yeah.
So one scene shows Julie at her breaking point, twirling around and asking the killer what's it waiting for, even though he's nowhere to be seen, so it looks like she's talking to the air. And when speaking with US Weekly in 2018, Jennifer Love Hewitt revealed that the iconic scene was a kid's idea. That scene was actually directed by a kid who won a contest to come on and create a moment for the movie, and it became the biggest part of the movie, she shared. She said that she had no idea where he was now, and that he wasn't thrilled about, or she wasn't thrilled about the idea of the scene at first. He's like, I want her to stand in the street and turn around and scream, what are you waiting for, huh? Love Hewitt said, I was literally like, are you kidding me right now? This is what I'm going to do? Okay. This was a great idea.
I mean, it is iconic in the film, without a doubt. There's no debate.
Yeah. In the movie, the Shivers department store, located in Southport, North Carolina, and owned by Helen Shiver's family, is actually a real store called Harold's Department Store, located in Burgaw, North Carolina. As of 2019, the store looks very familiar to Shiver's store in the movie, selling a mix of clothing and home appliances. As of 2023, the store is permanently closed.
Boo.
I know. Melissa Joan Hart turned down the role of Julie because she thought it was another ripoff of Scream. Hart was not entirely wrong.
Another ripoff? It was the first one.
As the two were very much cut from the same the same cloth and written by the same screenwriter, Kevin Williamson. However, Williamson actually adapted Lois Duncan's novel, I Know What You Did Last Summer, first in the early to mid-90s. He shopped it around the studios, who all said no, since slasher movies were dead at that point, so he put it away. Then around 1995, while house-sitting for a friend in the midst of getting shining like cabin fever after watching a news story about Florida's Gainesville Ripper, he suddenly got inspired. He reportedly whipped out a 120-page screenplay for Scream in about 48 hours while listening to the soundtrack for Halloween. He submitted it to studios, and Miramax eagerly bought and produced it. Scream, of course, became a massive hit in December of 96 and single-handedly revitalized the slasher genre. At that point, Williamson took his I Know script out of mothballs and resubmitted it. Columbia Pictures then bought the rights, and the rest is history. So actually, if anything, Scream is a ripoff of I Know What You Did Last Summer, and not the other way around, although Scream is widely regarded as the meta-commentary on slasher horror movies rather than an example of this one.
It does explain how Kevin Williamson had another movie come out the next year.
Yeah.
That script was sitting around.
Yeah. The final sequence on the boat was shot on actual waterbound vessel on the Cape Fear River, which proved difficult for the actors and the crew. According to Gillespie, the filmmakers nearly lost the boat while attempting to dock it due to the volatile waters, after which they were forced to leave and shoot other footage until the following day.
Jeez. Well, I mean, the ocean... Water, well, not ocean, it was a river.
Yeah.
Water be like that.
Oh, water be like that indeed. Although the film is not specifically included on Roger Ebert's most hated list, he only awarded it 1 star and described it as a tedious series of obligatory scenes in which non-essential characters are murdered with a bloody hook.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, that's as brutal as the film.
Freddie Prinze Jr. wasn't the first pick or obvious choice for Ray. Nobody wanted Freddie, Gillespie said. They thought he was too soft, he wasn't muscular enough, so Freddie probably screen tested 4 or 5 times. He got to the point where he was saying, "I'm done," and I really had to plead with him to stick with it because I wanted him. I thought he was going to be great with it. He went to the gym, worked out, changed his diet, cut his hair. I stuck to my guns, and eventually they went back and said yes.
Wow. And that started quite a career.
Yeah. Kevin Williamson's own father had been a fisherman in real life and wore a slicker similar to that of the killer. That's what inspired the outfit for the film.
I mean, that checks out.
Not screened in advance for critics.
Fuck them.
The plot is similar to Prom Night 1980, where friends accidentally cause the death of someone and make a pact to cover it up, only for the past to come back and haunt them.
That's a really good point.
Yeah,
except
it is.
Unlike this one,
it's good.
It's not a legally prescribed sedative like Prom Night. Sorry, Prom Night.
Johnny Galecki recalled doing a body cast for the scene where Julie opens the trunk and finds Max Dead's body in it with Crab crawling out of his mouth. He later got a call that production was shut down because Jennifer Love Hewitt was so upset by seeing his dead body cast of him. He called and reassured her that he was very much alive. They were very good friends.
What? So, like, what did Jennifer Love Hewitt think like they had hired Ruggiero Deodato to make this movie, and that he was actually killing the actors? Like, I mean, SAG won't even let you work 15 minutes over your day, let alone murder you for the good of a horror movie.
This is true.
I mean, Jesus.
The film originally had a different ending where Julie James is chatting with Ray online. She gets the pool party invitation, and then another person starts to chat with her, typing in, "I still know." Then the killer jumps out at her. The ending was used as a teaser trailer for the sequel.
It's like they were sitting there in the studio, and they were like, "It's dated enough. Let's not bring AOL Instant Messenger into this, okay? Let's not do that. Let's not bring internet relay chat into this.
Max's murder was added in reshoots. It was decided that the killer, who remained mostly in shadows the first half of the film, worked on a suspense level but never provided a tangible threat to the main characters. The murder was then filmed to show the audience that indeed this character was a deadly threat to the 4 leads.
And how.
Yeah,
no shit.
Upon getting the role of the killer, Ben Willis, Muse Watson explained they had already set up in Wilmington, North Carolina to film, and they had everybody cast but the killer. One of the things they were worried about was that they wanted somebody who could play the killer but be nice to kids. Most of the killers you hire will get into character and stay there. So they were a little bit worried about Jennifer Love Hewitt and Sarah Michelle Gellar, and they wanted somebody nice. This guy, who was a producer on Horse Jumping Movie I did with Julia Roberts and Bobby Duvall, called Something to Talk About in 1995. He was also a producer on this, and he told them, "I know a guy that could kill you in a minute, but he's the nicest guy there was on set." And they called me, and I drove across town in Hollywood, went to his office, and they put me on tape. While I was sitting, they sent me the tape out. Before I got home, I got a call saying, "Could you leave in the morning?" So I flew to Wilmington, got out there, and started studying the character.
What namby-pamby bull crap. I always hear that, like, the killer characters, they, like, don't eat with everybody and stuff, so they're less comfortable on screen with them.
Muse Watson still gets recognized as the killer. He revealed one of my buddies wanted to go down to Santa Monica Pier to see the movie down there, and we scared some people when it was over. They stood up and were getting their coats, looked back, and saw me standing there. And when I got back to my hideout in the mountains of Tennessee, my wife wanted me to go see it in Knoxville. And these 5 or 6 kids sitting in the front kept talking, and right after one of the close-up on screen, I tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, keep it down." And I think he probably had to change his underwear.
You mean he changed the guy's underwear?
Yes,
that's a little weird,
right?
It makes the story interesting.
So, what are your final thoughts on 1997's I Know What You Did Last Summer?
I mean, I love the film. It's super fun. I even think its direct sequel is super fun.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was Scream, it would be a buy at 100%.
Yeah.
But it's not. It is the beginning of a new world of slasher movies. So I'm going to give it a rent it.
Okay.
But if you're a horror movie nut, it's a buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's just obvious.
Rent it and buy it caveat for me. I think this is a testament to a great 90s thriller that, like I've said the entire episode, this builds on menacing so well that once you get to the kills, you're like, oh yeah, I'm all in.
Yeah, the suspense is played out really, really well.
Really well.
Which, I mean, considering you're competing with fucking Wes Craven.
Yeah.
You got to turn that heat up.
Yeah. And I mean, the soundtrack is 90s is fucking great.
Na 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 na.
But no, I Know What You Did Last Summer still stands up to this day as a great slasher film. It's a cable player even still today, and it makes sense as to why it is. And I will say, along with Henrique, I do like I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. It's just really stupid towards the end.
Yeah, but you know what? To me, what makes me not care about how stupid it is, is the setting, the island, the constant rainstorm, the hurricane weather.
The Rastafarian Jack Black getting killed.
Well... You know, let's not talk about that.
Let's not talk about that. But no, I Still Did Last Summer is absolutely worth the watch. And that brings us to our recommendations. We always like to give a couple as we close out the show. My first one this week, I would love to give some love to Kevin Williamson's Teaching Miss Tingle from 1999, a story of a girl who was willing to do anything to become valedictorian, even if it means murdering the teacher that stands in her way. One of the best Helen Mirren performances where she plays a bitch so well in this, but you also love her the entire time.
Yeah, I do like that one.
And second, I'm going to give one more recent, Fear Street Part 1 from 1994, which came out in 2021, Netflix original. A circle of teenage friends accidentally encounter the ancient evil responsible for a series of brutal murders that have plagued their town for over 300 years. Welcome to Shady Side. Cannot recommend the Fear Street trilogy enough on Netflix.
Well, I'm going to go in a direction I guarantee you didn't see.
Oh.
I think my recommendation this week is going to be the original Sleepaway Camp.
Okay.
It's a summertime film, even though it's clearly in the fall. It's a summertime film. It's got believable young people. So in some ways, it's the antithesis of I Know What You Did Last Summer, because I Know What You Did Last Summer, like everybody's too attractive, too pretty, too well lit. Sleepaway Camp is down and dirty. It's got griminess to it. But it is a whodunit at its core.
Yeah, absolutely.
With an ending that will leave you shocked if you've never seen it.
And a very good fake out if you have an HD transfer now with one certain scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's true. But so I'm going to say that. I'm going to say Robert Hiltnick's, that was it 1981, I believe?
Yeah, I believe so.
1981's Sleepaway Camp. That's my rec.
Good rec. Do we have any emails?
We do not.
We do not. So I guess
nobody loves us.
Nobody loves us indeed. So I guess we should go ahead and talk about what we're talking about next week, which we are starting Malgust.
Oh God.
Please, no, David.
Too late.
Malgust sounds like something that your doctor tells you got after you went to Thailand.
All right. Well, then I'll put this out to the viewers and listeners. If you have a great title for our Martin Mull tribute month,
Martin Mull August time.
Martin Mulgust.
It works. That's hell. I hate it.
If you have a better title than Mulgust or Martin Mulgust, write into us. Let us know. If we pick your title, we'll let you pick a movie.
Whoa.
Yeah. If you give us a good title for this month, we will let you pick a film that we will talk about.
Same if you slip me a 20.
That's fair too.
So, hell, so next week is Mr. Mom.
Mr. Mom from 1983 with Michael Keaton, a big-time favorite of mine. I think it's actually like one of his first big movies.
Yeah, and it's one of the first big films from a screenplay, an original screenplay from John Hughes.
And one thing we will tease about Malgust right now. Unfortunately, Martin Mull is very well known for his TV appearances more than his film appearances, so we have had to scrape a little bit on these, but we are picking titles that he is represented well in, I would say. What?
Sure.
I'm just saying.
There are a lot to pick from.
His filmography is not huge. His TV catalog is way bigger.
His filmography is pretty big, but he also is sometimes in like one scene.
One scene, yes. This is very true. But yeah, we'll talk about Mr. Mom, 1983, next week on Do You Even Movie.
All right. Well, make sure to check us out at doyouevenmovie.com to find out everything you could ever want to know about what we do here. If you want to email us, which we highly recommend you do, whether you want to recommend a movie, comment on a movie, whatever, talk about Dave's Yellow Belt, you can go and send us an email at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook if you type in Do You Even Movie Podcast. You can find us on Instagram with Do You Even Movie. Yeah.
I think that's it.
I guess it is. So until next time, we'll see you
next Tuesday.
summer.
Damn it.
Fuck you, Dave.